Hello everyone, this is Amir from Meshmatic. Today I want to show you why you shouldn't be using Maya to convert a step file into a mesh. For example, let's have a look at this model. So this model was originally designed in SolidWorks. I exported it as a step file and then I used Maya's import tool to import and convert the CAD model into a mesh and import it into Maya. And I use Aruba tessellation plugin in the Maya to convert it for me. And then I pressed import, and here I selected the file and import, and this was the result. When I look at it first, I think, okay, this model looks ready. It looks pretty good. The details are everything looking like the original CAD model. But if I go to the wireframe mode, I start to see the problem. You see, there are lots of faces on this mesh. A mesh with this much face density, it becomes very expensive for CPU to process it and very expensive for GPU to render it. Basically, it's the more faces you have on the mesh, and right now we are at 2.2 million faces. So imagine if this was for V-Ray rendering, your CPU or your GPU had to work 2 million times to convert a 3D mesh into a 2D pixel. So that's very expensive. If this was inside Unreal Engine, and especially if this robot arm was moving, it would become almost impossible to render it in real time. You would have serious lag issues. And for VR headsets, it's just unusable. So instead of this Aruba plugin and import tool inside Maya, I'm going into Meshmatic and convert it into a mesh and then import it into Maya. Okay. Here, I'm going to click on Add. And now I'm choosing this step model that we just looked at inside Maya. Press Open. Here, the import assist is asking me what type of model it is. And I'm going to choose either engineering or manufacturing. And the second step is asking, what are you planning to do with this model? I'm planning to render this in V-Ray for this sample project. So I'm going to select rendering and next. Here, it's suggesting me some conversion settings basically. So it suggested render 1, render 2, and render 3. I want to use render 2, but I do want to change a few things inside this profile before I use it. Let's click here to go into settings. I explained how to edit profiles in a different video in our YouTube channel. Feel free to have a look. But here I'm quickly going into advanced and I'm gonna bump these numbers up. Let me explain what this does. I know when the model converted from CAD to mesh, it generated a lot of faces. So I know this mesh has lots of curvatures, lots of complexities, and that's why it generated a lot of faces. But I want to start with something very simple inside Maya first, and then I can always retessellate or retopologize or smooth inside Maya. But it's a good idea, in my opinion, to start with a low resolution mesh, especially after CAD conversion. And when I change these numbers and when I increase them to a bigger number, they basically generate a lower resolution copy of the CAD. They are not going to get rid of any details. It's just that it doesn't really, it shows less tolerance basically to generate faces. So instead of having these many faces for this area, it's going to look at how many of these faces are necessary, how many are just for smoothness, and then it just generates the lowest resolution possible without damaging or deforming your mesh. So these are the maximum I can use. Press OK. It's asking, do you want to save this profile with the new settings? OK. Now it's added to the profile list. I'm gonna press add here. Now I'm ready. Click optimize. It will take about a minute or so to convert from CAD to mesh and clean up. All right, done. Now I can click here and see some details. The step file is now converted. Now it's a FVX file. I can click on it and it opens the Windows browser and shows me where it is. Also, it's a good idea to take a note of these numbers. So right now the converted file is only 24 megabytes. It only has 8 nodes with 8 meshes in it. But face count is the most important part. In this model, it was 2.2 million faces, which makes it very expensive. Here, it's only 106,000, which is a much easier, much cheaper mesh to render, either for V-Ray or inside a game engine. Now, let's have a look at the mesh, and then we can compare the two. All right. Okay, right off the bat, I can see that this mesh looks way better because Meshmatic preserved all the materials on the mesh. And if I go into wireframe mode, I see that I'm dealing with 106,000 faces rather than 2.2 million faces. If I wanted to make some parts more smoother, I can always go inside mesh, retopologize. I explained how to use this tool in a different video. Make sure to check that out. I also noticed that the materials also converted correctly. This one doesn't have any materials. It just basically found one material, applied it to everything. That's one of the issues with Aruba. But in Meshmatic, all the materials are preserved and the faces look very optimized. So working with this one or rendering this model is much cheaper, much easier compared to the Aruba effect. And that's why I think it's better for you to use Meshmatic instead of Aruba. That's about it for today. Thanks for joining me with this video. Please subscribe to our channel and hope to see you in our next video.